All right, this is our rhetoric and writing lecture for week 10, coming back from spring break. Hope everybody had a great spring break. And if you watched the overview lecture, I did a review for quiz 3, which is coming up this week. So I'm going to try to keep this one pretty brief, just going to cover one thing. And this is a very kind of not technical, but just a grammatical or usage thing that you probably only want to think about when you're doing revisions of papers. You don't want to think about commonly misused words probably when you're first writing. And the reason I include this is over the years I've noticed that there's a lot of things that will spell checker. You know, if you're using Microsoft Word, which I highly recommend that you have the spell checker turned on if you're using that, or in those red lines, those blue lines that come up, that can help you a lot in terms of your grammar and usage. But some things will not be picked up by the spell checker, for example, because they're not really the wrong word. They're not even spelled wrong. They're actually, I mean, they're not spelled wrong. They're not a misspelled word. They're just misused. So it's just choosing the wrong one. And there are a lot of these that are kind of tricky. And again, this stuff is may seem very picky, but let's go through some of it. And these are again just a few things that, again, they're not misspelled, so spell checker won't pick them up, but they're often misused. In fact, I misuse them all the time and catch myself, or don't sometimes too. So let's look at these. So I'm going to go through about 30 words here, so hopefully it won't take too long. And I'm going to go fairly quick, but if you want to make this more interesting, what you could do is just pause the video on each frame, because we'll have 3 frames with 10 words each, and just choose the best choice. What do you think is the best choice? And that way you can kind of quiz yourself. So, I mean, I'll give you like a second here to just pause it if you want to, and then when you come back, I'll give all the answers. And again, if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. You can just go through with me with each one. This first one says, the rich dessert affected or effected my appetite. And again, if you pause this and everything and chose one or the other, the best choice here is A, affected with an A. This is acting as a verb or an action. Effect with an E is as a noun. So if you said the rich dessert had an effect on me, that's different than saying the rich dessert affected me, because effect becomes a noun. Or like the effect of the medicine was to make me feel better, but affected as a verb, when you say it like this, the rich dessert affected my appetite, it's the A. That's a verb. This is a noun. Same meaning, but different part of speech. I already went to the store. First one is the best choice. This is me doing something previously, whereas this one is completely ready. I'm all ready. So there's a difference in being completely ready and doing something previously. So the best choice here is already. He was very happy to accept the award. The first one, again, is the best choice. To accept means to receive something. Accept here with an E is more like exceptional, being exceptionally good at something, being different. It's an exception. Accept with an A is accepting something, receiving something. I'm going through this as quick as I can, but again, like I said, just pauses if you want to go through these and figure them out for yourself first, and then and also one other thing, like I mentioned earlier, I don't expect these are things that these come up all the time in your papers. When you get to the second draft, especially, I might look for some of these things, but generally in the first draft, not a big deal. These are just things that come up. The woman was wearing a red skirt or an red skirt. Now, this is the first one of these that we've talked about so far that there's a rule that I can point to. Whenever there's a rule, I'll try to share it with you. Some of these, there's probably a rule, but I'm not aware of it always. But this one, I'm very aware of the rule. When do we choose the article a, and when do we choose the article an? And what you'll notice here, this word, the woman was wearing red skirt, right? It starts with what's called a consonant, right? R, this R. So that sound, not always the spelling, but the sound, the consonant sound, means the woman was wearing a red. So a always goes with consonants, and for vowel sounds, those other sounds that we have like A, E, I, O, U, we're going to say an. So like an apple, an orange, right? But a banana, because it starts with the consonant sound. So everything that's not a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, it's going to start with a. Everything that is a vowel, A, E, I, O, U, it's going to start with an. And remember, it's the sound, not the spelling, because there are certain words where the H, for example, is silent. My example I always give is hour, the word hour. Like it's 6 hours until we're leaving. And hour starts with an H, but we don't say it. So you would actually say an hour because it's starting with a vowel sound, not a starts with a consonant spelling, but we do it by the sound. So anyway, there's a rule for that one. So I spent a little time on that one. Everyone should be allowed to speak about the government. The second one is, notice A, loud. It has to do with volume, speaking out loud, like I'm doing right now, aloud. Allowed is permission. So this first one is correct. He sent a big box of chocolates to his girlfriend. This is a verb that means to, to mail something or get something delivered. This has to do with century, 100, or cents, like pennies, and this is smell. So the first one's a good choice. Please close the door. The second one's a good choice. This first one has to do with what you wear. I shouldn't have, but I had 2 desserts. This one is, I have a mnemonic, meaning a memory device to remember this because I always forget this. Dessert has 2 S's. Desert, like the dry place, like where I used to live in New Mexico, has 1 S. So I always have 2 helpings of dessert because I love dessert. So dessert has 2 S's. That's just the way I remember that one. He wants to buy a business, but he doesn't have enough capital. Capital with an A is money when we talk about money. It can also be a place like the state capitol. Capital with an O, believe it or not, is only used, and you can check me on this if you want to go to the Heartbreaks book. I think all these are in the book. But with an O is only used for that building. So if you go to Washington, you stand out in front and get a picture of the Capitol Dome or the one in Springfield, wherever, that building is with an O. Capital like money, capital like an actual state capital, like Springfield is the state capital of Illinois, is with an A. So only the building is the O. So in this case, again, we use this one, the second one, with an A. He drove further or farther than she did. A lot of people will choose further on this. It's often confused. Like I said, these are commonly misused, not random or not rarely misused. They're commonly misused. Further, just for a lot of people, sounds more academic than farther. But there is a difference in the meaning. Notice it says far. Anytime you're talking about a physical distance, you use farther. Further is used more for things like I'm furthering my education, sort of intensifying something. I'm furthering my exercise routine or whatever. You're doing something more. And that's when we use further. I further developed that new idea, whatever it might be. But farther is physical distance. I walked farther. I drove farther. I flew farther, right? See, I tried to do it too because further sounds more academic to a lot of people. But farther is physical distance. Further is doing something to more of an extent. Okay, we're a third of the way there. If you want to pause this again and just go real quickly through and make your choice. That might make it more interesting, and then I'll go through them. There are fewer or less cars parked in the parking lot because of the holiday. Again, this is one that I'm very aware of, an important rule, which is called, you may have heard of this before, countability or non-countability. If you can count something, right, like there are less cars or fewer cars, if you can count it, you could go out to the parking lot and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's only 10 cars in the parking lot. That's fewer if it's countable. Now think about something you can't count. So I'm drinking, I'm not going to tell you what no, I'm just kidding. It's just water, I promise. Just a glass of water here. But when I started making these videos today, it was all the way up to here. It was full, right? And now it's down to here. There's less water. Water is not countable. You can count jugs of water or glasses of water, but water itself, like rice, sand on a beach, dirt, we really don't say there's 4 dirts, right? there's fewer dirts. No, we'd say less dirt. Just like in my cup, there's now less water. It's uncountable. So that's the rule behind that, and that's why for this one, the best choice is fewer. We wouldn't say there are less cars in the parking lot, but we'd actually say fewer. We might say that, but again, it doesn't matter in normal everyday speaking. I'm only talking about academic writing here. Language is used differently, of course, depending on what we're using it for. And academic writing is like the most formal place almost for language. So we'd say fewer here. Did you hear that noise outside? I have a mnemonic for this one. If you take off the H, you have the word ear, and that's what you hear with, right? You hear with your ears. So here is the best. Obviously, this is a preposition for a place here, like standing right here. So the second one's a good choice. There's a hole in your sweater. The second one means complete, like the whole pizza, the whole pie, something like that. And the first one is, like the hole that's in the sweater. Please send me a letter through the regular mail. Second one. First one has male, female. He is a minor, so he shouldn't be served alcohol. someone who works in the ground. Oh my gosh, I'm getting this one confused now. Sorry. It's the second one though, right? I think first one is the young person. So we've got a young person and someone who actually works in the ground. So it should be the first one, sorry. That I believe. And then minor, the second one is the person who works in the ground. So we want to choose this first one. All right. In the last few years, many people have begun to wonder if there will ever be peace in the world. First one. The second one, of course, is like a piece of candy or something like that. First is the best choice. I ate a large, juicy, delicious pear. Paring down means separating, cutting something. Pear is the fruit. And then last is like a pair of socks, right? So we want to choose this middle option, P-E-A-R. She's the principal of the school. So my mnemonic device for this, when I was in high school, I was in trouble pretty often and found my way to the office of the principal. And so they became my pal, P-A-L. So this is the one we would choose here. That's just my mnemonic for remembering that. Principle like this is like a belief, right? Like the corporation was founded on the principle that we should provide products for all customers or something, or the country was founded on the principle of equality and justice or something, whatever it might be. But principle is like a belief. Principle is like the head of the school here. He was in love at first sight. So cite means like citation, like you should cite your sources or have a works cited page. You give credit to it. Cite is a place. That's what we want. I'm sorry, no, that's not what we want. And then sight is vision. So the third one is our best choice, right? He was in love at first sight, seeing. The woman's son came to visit her. This is like the sun in the sky, and this is like the sun, the woman had. So S-O-N would be the correct choice. All right, last frame here. I told you I was going to try to keep this video short. I'm trying to do that for this week. And this, maybe some of these will come up on a later quiz, but I'm really doing this just because, again, these are things that spell checker doesn't catch. So for the last 21 through 30 here, if you want to pause this and try your hand and see what you can do with each one of these, see how you do, and then you can check yourself. I'll go through them. I'll give you a second to pause it, and then we'll keep going if you come back. Or if you just want to stay with me, that's fine too. Petronas Towers in Malaysia are taller than the Sears or the Willis Tower in Chicago. Then or then. Then has to do with time, and then, T-H-A-N, has to do with a comparison. If you're making a comparison, taller than, you're going to use the second one. Please don't waste any more food. So this first one is a, don't waste, don't misuse it, and this is the part of your body where your belt might be, W-A-I-S-T. So you want to choose this one, the first one. If I lose 5 more pounds, I'll be at my ideal weight. So this is waiting for something to happen. Time is ticking, right? And this is actually pounds, right? Or kilos or whatever, weight. She is very attractive. V-E-R-Y or V-A-R-Y. This second one is a variety, right? Like various, so not correct. Very is an, like more than or extremely. Okay, so very is the correct one here, the V-E-R-Y. Please wear a hard hat in this area. First one is correct. Wearing clothing. This is wear like cookware or different kinds of supplies or something like that. But this first one is correct. Wear. Who's going to leave camp and go for help? Well, here's another one. I know most of these I don't have a clear rule, but this one has a very clear, easy to understand rule, I think. And it has to do with what this apostrophe is doing here. So this apostrophe is always replacing, unless it's a possessive, but in this case it's replacing a letter. So if you just basically insert the letter that it's replacing and read it out loud, you'll know whether it's correct or not. Who is going to leave camp? So that's replacing I, right? Who is going to leave camp? If you say that, it sounds right. It makes sense. So if you replace that apostrophe, put in the right letter that's missing, and it makes sense, then that's the correct one. Whose is a possessive pronoun, like whose car is this? So it doesn't make sense. But this one, if you read it out, it does make sense. So the second one's a good choice. The new house was constructed entirely of wood. So the first one is like what comes from trees, right, to build things. And the second one is I believe a modal, which is like would you, could you, should you, those kinds of words. So W-O-O-D is the correct choice here. Please come to class today to pick up your portfolio. Now remember with this one up here, we had this rule about put in the letter that's missing. And what's missing here? It should be you are, right? Please come to class today to pick up you are portfolio. These are very commonly confused, your and your, but this is the correct one here. and it's a possessive pronoun. Your, it's the one that you own, not you are portfolio. So if we take that out, we know this one's correct. Couple more. The question the detective had was, why did he steal the radio? First one is the correct one, to take something that doesn't belong to you. The second one is the metal, right? Like steel. And if anybody's a football fan, we don't say the Pittsburgh Steelers like a S-T-E-A, we say E-E-L, right? Because Pittsburgh, once upon a time, was a steel town where they manufactured a lot of steel, and has nothing to do with stealing, with taking something. That's not their mascot, but it's the guys who worked in the steel, people who worked in the steel industry. That's where they get that. So steel is a metal. This is the one we want to choose, the first one for this sentence. The laser shot out tiny rays of light. Rays is like to level, to completely level a building, for example. Or rays are these things that shoot out, so that's the one we want to choose. And then finally, raise is, obviously lifting something. So the second one is our best choice. And that is all that I have for this one. And just don't forget, if you haven't watched the overview video this week, it's a little longer, but I put a review for the quiz. So if you're planning to take the quiz this week, do take a look at the overview video if you haven't seen that one. And as always, let me know if you have any questions about these commonly misused words, or the quiz, or the essay that's coming up also this week, essay number 5. Thanks for watching.